I got your dress back from the cleaners. I'm afraid the stains wouldn't come out. You should have heard the lady. What did she do? Slash your thighs with a razor blade? I had to admit you had, dear. Really, I've never heard of anything like that before. Your father and I were so terrified when we came into the bathroom to find your pretty white dress perched up over your head and you were slashing away at your thighs. I don't think your father's ever seen your thighs before, and I hope he never does again, at least not under those conditions. No one in our family has ever committed suicide before now. No one since either. I think it's a sign of defeat. And you know what else, Jane? 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 What? I don't think you ever attempted suicide at all. That's what I think.
How do you explain the stains, then?
I don't. I merely say stains will explain themselves. And if they don't, then there's nothing that can be done about it.
I did attempt suicide.
No, no, you didn't, dear. A daughter doesn't contradict her mother.
Did you hear the voice of my therapist just then?
No, dear. Oh, yes. Now I hear him. He's saying what a fine daughter I have.
Mother, I'm home.
No way, dear. It's...
Darling, darling.
No. We've got to stop moving this way. It's mad. Your father will find out.
Oh, I'm mad for you. I find you exciting.
Quick! There's the postman. Act busy.
Oh, he's coming. Mother, why must you taunt me like this? Let's get married.
We have different blood types.
Oh, Mother, I love you.
Quick, here comes your father.
Edith! What are you doing?
Oh, Arthur, I was just finishing up my morning shopping.
And how is our daughter?
You're not my father.
Yes, he is, dear.
He's my brother.
No, dear, Dwayne's your brother.
Hers again?
Well, not socially.
Good. I don't ever want to hear of you dating a psychologist again. You hear me, young lady?
I've never dated my psychologist.
Of course you didn't. You're a good girl. You obey your father.
Not like some I could mention.
No.
I could mention some.
You could.
I could. I will.
Now?
Now, Dolores, Lucia, Harrietta, Charmant, Peggy.
Listen to your father, Jane.
I don't ever want to hear of you slashing your thighs again. You hear me, young lady? I don't think that psychologist would ever go out with you again if he knew you were slashing away at your thighs.
I didn't go out with my psychologist.
Of course not. He has a wife and 16 children. You're a good girl. You listen to your father.
You're not my father.
Yes, he is, dear.
If you're my father, you must be close to 50.
I am close to 50.
Let me see your driver's license, then.
Here.
It says you're 50. How'd you get them to put it down?
The truth is the truth, Jane, no matter how you look at it.
How come you don't look 50?
Your father's never looked his age. Most girls would be pleased their father looks so young.
Most girls are pleased.
Jane's pleased you look young, aren't you, Jane? Don't you think Arthur looks young for his age, Granddad?
What? Me?
Don't you think Arthur looks young, Granddad?
Me? Rick.
Poor Granddad, he can't hear a thing.
Where'd father go?
Oh, that's funny. I didn't hear the door close.
Granddad, Mother's having a beer with Dwayne!
What?
Shush, dear. You mustn't make up stories. I don't. Oh, the doorbell. Oh, Jane, it's your psychologist. I recognize you from the photos. Jane has them plastered all over her wall. I don't know why.
Honey, must be Jane's mother.
Yes, I'm Edith Fromage. I invented cheese in the early portion of the century. You probably recognize me from the papers.
In what way did you invent fromage?
Oh, in every way. And this is my son, Dwayne Fromage.
How do you do, son? How do you do? I'm Mr. Summers. I didn't realize Jane's last name was fromage.
Oh, it isn't. I had her by another husband, a Mr. Carrot.
My name isn't Carrot.
Yes, dear, it's Jane Carrot. You have to excuse me. She's very overwrought today. The stains wouldn't come out of her dress.
Oh, I'm sorry.
You think you're sorry. You should have seen the lady at the cleaners. I thought we'd have to chain her to the floor.
Perhaps Mr. Summers is hungry.
Oh, forgive me.
No thank you.
Well then, how about some entertainment? Jane, play the piano for Mr. Summers.
I don't play the piano.
Of course you do. I've heard you many times. You play very well.
I've never played before.
Jane, Mr. Summers would enjoy you playing. Please play.
I don't know how!
How do Have you ever tried?
No.
There, you see? You have to excuse me. Her real instrument is the cello, but we never speak of that.
Please play, Jane.
I don't remember how to play the piano.
But you do. Why else would we have a piano? No one else in the house plays.
I don't remember taking lessons.
Perhaps you've just forgotten due to all the strain. You talk to her. She seems in a state. Come along, dear. Call me if you need me, Mr. Summers.
I don't remember taking piano lessons.
Maybe you're Preston. So my wife gave me a message this afternoon about your attempting suicide, Jane. Why did you do it?
Well, I can't stand it anymore. My mother says she's addicted to cheese, and I start to think maybe she has. And there's a man living in my house, and I'm not sure whether he's my father, or my grandfather, or my brother. I can't be sure of anything anymore.
Well, you're talking quite rationally now, and your self-doubts are a sign of health. The truly crazy person never thinks he's really crazy. Now tell me, what led up to your real suicide?
Well, one night I woke up hearing this voice saying it wasn't enough.
Did you recognize the voice?
Not at first, but then it all started to come back to me. When I was 8 years old, some people took me and a few other children to see a production of Peter Pan. I remember something seeming off with the whole production, like when the children would fly up into the air, the actors would come falling to the stage and have to be carried out by stagehands. And you know how in the second half of the play, a crocodile chases Captain Hook? It was a real crocodile, and it wasn't an actor. And at one point it fell off stage, crushing several children in the front row.
Wow, what happened to the children?
Several understudies came and took their places in the audience. And from scene to scene, Wendy just seemed to get fatter and fatter until finally by the second act she was completely immobile and had to be moved by a cart.
And where does this voice fit?
Well, the voice belonged to the actress playing Peter Pan. You know how in the second half of the play, Peter's about to drink this poison, but Tinkerbell stops him in order to save his life? And then Peter turns to the audience and says that we all clapped really hard to show that we do believe in fairies and maybe Tinkerbell won't die. So we all started to clap. We clapped really long and really hard. My palms started bleeding. You heard a little I clapped so hard. And then, all of a sudden, Peter turns to the audience and says, "That wasn't enough. Tinkerbell's dead." And then the actress stalked off stage and refused to continue the play. No one could see through all the tears. The ushers had to come and help the children up down the aisles and onto the streets, and I never thought any of us would be the same after that experience.
How do you think this affected you?
Well, certainly it turned me against theater, but more damagingly, it's warped my sense of life. Like, nothing seems to be worth trying if Tinkerbell's just going to die.
So, you wanted to die like Tinkerbell?
Yes.
Jane, I have to bring my wife to the hospital this afternoon, so I have to go now. But I want you to hold on. I think you're going to be all right. But when I come back, we'll talk about putting you somewhere else for a while.
You mean committing me?
No, this will be just the temporary house. Completely temporary thing. Tinkerbell just needs her batteries recharged, that's all. Now just make your mind self a blank, and I'll be back as soon as I can.
Thank you. I'll try and stay quiet till you return.
Oh, you're leaving already? Won't you have some of my cheese?
No, thank you, Mrs. Fromage. I have to go now. Please see that your daughter stays quiet.
Oh, you can rely on me.
Jane?
Jane, dear, I've brought you some sheet music. I thought that if you got settled on where middle C was, it would all come back to you.
Please, just leave me alone.
I don't know why you've turned against the piano.
Well, you know, my one love was always the cello.
A good daughter does not speak to her mother in that tone. When you are ready to play the piano,